This episode is part of a Heart Called Home series. Conversations about identity, self-discovery, and what it means to keep coming home to yourself over and over again. Today's conversation is an intimate and authentic sharing of one woman's ongoing journey of being true to herself and her path. It's rooted in love, curiosity, and a deep desire to grow. Even when growth asks us to see things differently. Amy and I explore life through a German New Medicine lens, the wisdom of animals, and the evolving role of tools like AI, how they can be incredibly helpful and supportive, and also where their limitations live. At the heart of this conversation is a simple remembering. No tool, teacher, or technology can replace our own inner knowing, or the sacred work of staying connected to ourselves and to one another. Amy Michelle, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I am so excited to have this conversation with you about how utilizing AI and maybe non-traditional ways to help us get better perspectives on ourselves. And then if we're working with clients, how to be able to see big picture too. But you just have a lot of experience that I think is going to be really eye-opening. But let me tell my girls a little bit about my beautiful friend, Amy Michelle. Amy Michelle owns the House of Zen, and it is one of the services that she provides is being able to basically work with your animals that are within your surrounding, they are a mirror for us. And she's able to help us see as maybe the animals having issues. Like I gave her a call when my dog was having some ear problems and some territory issues, and when we had some puppies that were sick. And she helped me to be able to reframe the situation and see the bigger picture, a deeper connection. And it's incredible what she does. Amy, can you fill in any other gaps of what you bring to this world with all your beauty?
Thank you so much. It's a hard question for me because I am an Aquarius and I have a flying constellation that I've been running for all the GHK, Germanische Heilkunde lovers and believers and followers out there. I'm Mary Poppins. I'm up, I'm flying. I collect gifts of consciousness. A lot of them are sort of either ancient, esoteric, or they're dropping in out of thin air.
Mhm.
I land with my satchel, I deliver, and then I, kind of go back up. So the gift of the flying constellation is that it is a multifaceted satchel of Mary Poppins that I literally don't know what, someone will need at the moment that they need it, but that is the gift of collecting, waiting, stewing, experiencing, simmering in it, and then someone shows up and this is exactly what they need. So it's from something like Anamir, which is what Dr. Melissa Sell and I do together, which is, yes, using the animals to show you, I mean, they're there to show us what it is that we're running. What is it that we are wanting to understand, that it's sort of like hidden in plain sight. We love them unconditionally. They love us unconditionally. It's almost like the secret third door to get in when we're running all the human things of, like, the parents or the children or the spouses or partners are, I can't get past the irritations to get like what's behind it, like what's the wizard behind the curtain, and the animals are it's an easier path, I've found. So with animals, we kind of take, yeah, scenarios where something's happening in an animal's body or consciousness or emotions, and we look and say, well, what is this about in me? Because if I'm seeing it, it's for me, as within, so without. So that premise for me, everything is the mirrorverse, but animals just seem to be easier, that I found for us to perceive, because we know they're not ill intent, and we do have these, quirks of human nature that we don't always think of the good intentions that the other humans, whatever role they're playing, have. So that's one. And then really animals have brought me their humans. It's kind of how it's always been. It started off in a, traditional dog business, running daycare, running camps, running, dog walking. And I realized through that they were here to teach me, guide me to their humans. And so whether it's a realtor who has a stale listing and happens to come, drop off her dog at daycare, and then we start having a conversation, and the dog is letting loose literally all over the yard, like what's happening? This is before, GHK. It was, I would say, well, what's happening in your life? Oh, well, I have this kind of stuck still, like think constipation of the animal, but then they come and they relieve it, and I say, okay, well, what's happening? And so the realtor parent will say, "Oh, just randomly, I have this, this listing that's been hanging around for a year." And I said, "Oh, so, what is this about?" So we start to have a conversation, and it's like quickly, like a silent nod to the animal. You can go play. Thank you. I've gotten the information. And so I become like this bridge of communication. Not that anyone else can't do what I do. It's just that uniqueness that I've chosen to play the role of let me listen, let me play with animals, and then let me translate because it seems to be a path of peace that they've illuminated for me. Like they'll listen to me if you can help them hear me. So with that is kind of the big, kind of the bridge of how do I learn about myself? How do I look in the mirror with my animal? Um, and along with that are all the different tools in the satchel of anything from quantum healing to emotion code to things that don't even exist on the planet that I'm aware of, other than, so like, blowing into a vortex, a water vortex, and being able to connect, water to the consciousness that you're running and pull out what no longer serves you. So I play with a lot of things. I collect, it's like almost curating consciousness or cutting edge consciousness tools to be able to keep combing through the crap, in our minds that we've collected. Yeah. So the best part, the most fun is that I never know what's going to happen. I don't know, what's going to come out of my mouth half the time. Um, Except that I filter through my own, I sit in prayer, I sit in silence. I ask that I be used as an instrument for peace. So typically that is what happens is something will, show up and come out, and a lot of it is being held. What do we really want? We want to be heard, and we want to be held, and we want to be validated that no matter what it is we're experiencing, it's perfect and we've done nothing wrong ever. Even if we perceive it as I screwed up or it's a mistake, it's never a mistake. It's always a part of the path to unraveling the things we made up to get us back home to the path of peace. And for me, this is what the life game dream is all about. And of course, hopefully having fun along the way, but it takes time to literal time, linear time, because that's what we play, and to stretch it out and say, okay, well, there's going to be some kind of sticky moments. And once we get to this place of nothing's wrong, I didn't do anything wrong, I'm inherently good. How do I know that? Because we came from the creator of the universe, and we are always tapped into that, no matter what our beliefs are. So you can't just be an ounce of good. You're either all good or not good. And for me, that's it. You have an ounce of it, you're all good. So inherently good. And now we look at things differently. Well, if it isn't wrong, then what can I glean from this? And then looking at good intentions of others, other people. We don't do anything on purpose, meaning to hurt, inherently hurt. Good intentions of, I mean, in the word good is hidden G-O-D. In the word dog, flipped backwards, G-O-D. So for me, it's always that, and it's nothing to do with, I didn't grow up with religion or spirituality. I grew up with none of it. I grew up with like literally an empty slate. And it was, as a kid, I thought, well, this is, kind of, I felt almost like in my 20s, they messed up. My parents, we didn't have this. And each child went to find their own connection, which is the beauty of like Alice in Wonderland going down the rabbit hole. You get to choose. They gave us free will choice, literally validated it from their own fears or not wantings or not understandings. We each found our own path. And my path is just, being the flighty Aquarian, just floating all around. It's this, then it's this, and it's this. And so everyone who knows me says, of course, that's Amy. That's just who she is and what she does. Um, so it creates uh, a very dynamic, variable life, which again, not necessarily easy, but the phrase is it's not easy, it's simple. So how do we get back to simplicity and peace on the path of, not easy? How do we navigate? So I think I mean, it's what I do in my own life, and that's what I offer, or the magnetism that the match comes is, you know, something's happening, and it could be in any sphere of life. That's usually what happens. It's from a realtor to someone who's just experiencing that doesn't even have an animal. So it doesn't necessarily have to do with, someone who has to have an animal. It's that um, I tend to be that third door. When you've exhausted all other options, somehow you find me on your path, and it's not necessarily what you thought you were going to hear or what you wanted to hear, and yet it shifts the trajectory of the path towards more peace. Sometimes an annoying Pollyanna pivot, but I've learned to accept that. If I dress like Mary Poppins, it might be easier for everyone. But we've forgotten, Mary Poppins comes to the kids, but really she's working with the adults. The kids already know her. They called her in. It's the adults, the adults in their masks around the inner child that has just forgotten and strayed, like dogs, they just get lost and you rescue them. So that feels like a big theme of continuing to come home to that inner child, that play. Like, what is this really about? If we're not playing and we're not having fun, even if it's not easy, then something is, we've gotten a little stuck somewhere, or stuffed, or stuffed up, or constipated in our thoughts. Yeah.
With that, I'm really curious to just take a step backwards a little bit to talk about identity and where you said you didn't have any spiritual structure growing up, and it came to you and your siblings to explore and find on your own. With all the programming that we go through, for good or bad, and then you coming into exploring and trying new things, did you find through your life that you kind of adopted certain identities and then had to come to terms with, you know what, that's not my authentic self? Like, how have you managed to find your authentic self through those periods of life and then come back and make sure that you are, because it sounds like you're very connected with your purpose and you feel very comfortable and confident with who you are, but that's not most people.
I wasn't, and I think it's just beginning to kind of settle in, and it's really about accepting what's so natural to each of us, what we do naturally that literally is our blind spot. So yes, it's a perfect question, and the answer is yes, yes, yes. I played a role of, first of all, we're all playing roles. I'm playing a role of a daughter. I'm playing a role of a sister. I played a role of a wife. I'm playing a role of a partner. I've had mixed partners. I was married to a man. Now I have a female partner. I can't explain any of that other than I have a thread that I follow in life, and I can't explain how that, came through other than love leads my way, always, period. So even um, when when I was in college and I had this calling to within me, from 13 years old until basically until I graduated college. So in my early my early 20s, um, I I had this, the seed was planted when I was 13. You are Jewish. That's just it. It just was a thought, like you are. And so you must explore this. And so I could say in looking at in retrospect of all the roles I've played, they're different timelines or different past lives or whatever the terms might be in all the ways that we define things. Really, for me, it was choose my own adventure. And so this is the adventure. First, you're going to play a daughter, and then you're going to play, an adaptation of asthma, and then you're going to play, you're playing a sister role, and then you're going to, play a single role away from home, and then, and I keep so with that, learning that, just kind of adapting to, well, this is just what life is. You just keep playing different roles. And one might say, oh my God, that's terrifying. Like, who are you really? But who am I really is what I'm following, which is love. So it's sort of like there was this inherent intuitive knowing, play whatever role you want to play. It's never going to be your truth. It's just a mask or a costume like Halloween on top of love, which has no form. It just is. So through these, what lights me up? What do I love? Well, it's Judaism. So I went through the entire conversion process and I immerse myself in these roles. And there's a thread, an inherent theme of a thread, which is obviously looking for belonging. Who am I? What am I? Even though there's this inherent knowing I'm only love, I'm still, it's the duality. Like, well, if that's really true, then what am I doing here? What's my purpose? Who am I? Why do I look like this? So throughout life, playing different spirituality roles, the moment and each time, and I don't love the word test, I'm still looking for new ways to explain opportunity or forks in the road, where immediately I convert, and I converted because I was driven to do it. It wasn't, I didn't do it for marriage. I needed to adopt this role, this identity. Um, and once I did that, the moment, and I mean, really, like shortly after, someone became interested in me. And the very first question I said to this person who said, oh, this man is interested in you, I said, oh, is he Jewish? And then, that's the identity talking. But the truth of me said, oh, no, you can't do that. You know this. It's love over everything, period, Amy. So I went down the rabbit hole of marrying a Catholic and all of the things that came up about that and how are you going to raise your children and I'm like, what children? We're not even married. And so it was playing all those roles. Then I played a daughter-in-law role and that was a big challenge for me. So learning and growing. And then I moved from, California to Connecticut. And I've played roles of the vagabond, the wanderer, the even a trophy, Stepford trophy wife, in quotes. And they're just ridiculous titles to there's a movie. It was literally made with the idea that the women in the town that I lived in, literally near where I was, these are the roles we played. Um, so I jokingly say I played that role. I did everything I needed to do to be a perfect something for someone. And then that came crashing down because that's not real. And that's not what people really want. People want to be heard, felt, seen, validated, belong, connect. And the one connection that being wanted was children, and I didn't. So in the end, that is, all the other things that kind of chaotic made the soup kind of chaotic. It really was about I want children and you don't. So we must part ways because now we bring in biology, right? Biology, he's a male. He must procreate. And in this, I bypassed biology and said, no, I don't want it. I'm choosing something different. I want a different identity. So that does come home to roost later in the storyline, but so many different identities. And from there, I became, well, my chosen children are dogs, which hence the storyline of animals communicate with me to help them, help them um, heal or inform or reflect and translate to their parents. I don't call them owners. We do not own nature. So that's one of the most honorable roles, is that I'm not in charge and that they guide. But yes, all of that leads to, well, we could say, was there ever like an identity crisis? Yes, if you play a lot of roles and you willingly play them, it's the constant question. So one, I'm holding, it's literally duality. I know the truth that love is all there is, period. And I see something in the mirror, or I'm interacting with someone and this doesn't feel like love. And so I started to really dissect my mind, which is, my flying constellation. My territory is my mind. Back off. This is why I chose to play all these roles, because I haven't landed completely. So therefore, the gift of hanging out above and around is, well, let's kind of look at what all of that is. What does that mean to hang out in the air, in the sky, in the mind? Well, the mind, if you're asking me, creates everything in that we see, not the inherent creator. So I started to um, dive into how can I change what I see with, again, some kind of tapped in inherent knowing, inherent truth that I'm not in charge, but I can use my relationship with this. It's beyond, it's like cosmic is not really the word, but that space. Um, I can use the space to create differently. And I started to really want that. I want to change this. I'm done playing all of those roles. What if I just settled into the real, like the truth of what I am? And
Mm.
that changed, it's changed everything. And it started with, again, a random thought drop in, which isn't really my thought. Um, and I can only say it wasn't my thought because it's almost like I never thought it before. It just heard it. And when I hear those, I adopt them immediately. I pay attention to the random drop-ins. And it was, I'm willing to see this. I'm radically willing to see this differently, which turns out is in the Course in Miracles, but I didn't know that. It just heard it, and I started to adopt that and say it every single day. Whatever the topic, subject, whatever it was, I'm willing to see this differently. Physically, the partner, the house, every situation, I'm willing to see this differently. My willingness to shift to see it differently, the willingness is the key. It's all of a sudden it was like something opened. And then shortly shortly down the timeline, all of a sudden, I realized that that was a part of Course in Miracles, which was sitting in my house that I'd had it for 11 years. I just didn't really open it. And that's how it goes with that specific, that channeling is you're either ready or you're not ready. And then when I sat in, the different groups listening, I was in awe. Oh my God, I am being guided, but I'm not doing it. And so I started to realize, wait, you can either swim upstream or you can even look like you're swimming downstream and you're doing it all by yourself. And I realized, no. Well, yes, that is how I played until I realized, wait a minute, you've been guided the whole time. And so what does that look like? And knowing that we can play all the identities, but the real identity will never leave, will never be, you can't mask it. You can try, you just can't mask it with anything. And so I've been brought to my knees so many times in tears and in um, just what asking from within and in that knowing you can continue to play this. Is this what you want for the next whatever? So, the next 50. And I knew that I didn't. I wanted something else. But it's sort of like um, Madonna, non-Madonna. Madonna is like a chameleon. She's changed her identity so many times, and she's a beautiful performer. For me, that's kind of like the avatar of my life. And ironically, as I started to tune into this, and she's been, playing with Kabbalah and teach and immersing in Kabbalah for a long time. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like here it is in my awareness now. She's now sitting and sharing this with the world. And I'm like, so here it is. I'm lining up. And so what do we start to see what it is that we are inside. We start to see it mirrored outside. So spirituality, connection to something not greater, but yes, greater. That is who we are or what we are. Um, so with that, um, I also know that I might as well play with everything while I'm in this game of life. So here comes AI and, Age of Aquarius. Like it's like I've been waiting for this my whole life and, hearing the song since the 70s. And always playing around with astrology, and then all of it just kind of it just kind of came in, and it was this decision. I can fight what is naturally being offered as a tool on in the game of life, or um I can, which I really in the beginning chose, I'm not going to play with this. 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 And then um, I don't know. I just had another thought that said, wait a minute. And also, I've learned that whatever we play with here is used with a choice for good. So I said, okay, let's play. Let's see. Here's a new tool. And it's become that's been a journey. So I don't know if I'll go into that, or if you want to we pause in there for a minute, or I can just tell the story of that about how I use it, and even that has taken me on a ride
Yeah, let's
recently.
go ahead and get into it.
Okay, so I was maybe a year as the technology started to advance, and I want to say maybe 3 years ago, I was sitting in a group, and they kept talking about it, and you should invest in Lana Lana. And I said, I didn't, no, 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 not time for me, not time for me, not for this. And because for me, it wasn't the right, um, it wasn't for the right reason. My lens is how can I help you? It's service. So maybe it's a blind spot, or it's just a gift of this lifetime for me that I am here to give you, to help you, us awaken together. So it was like, well, that was through the investor lens. And I said, no, that's not gonna, it's not for me. But there was the seed. That's why I was there, to hear the names, ChatGPT, Gemini, and recently Cloud or Claude has come into my awareness. So I started to just ask simple things, what people instruct. Oh, you start with this, look up recipes or to-do lists. And it just, okay, okay, that's nice. That's interesting. Okay. And then I started to hear this voice that said, well, first of all, in studying the Course in Miracles, there is a phrase that says Holy Spirit, God, uses everything we play with here, everything we play with. So you can't get it wrong. Like you can't, no tool is going to be, it's even if it perceives in a way that is not helpful, it's helpful. It's literally the way I look at it. It's perception. So I said, okay, let me dive in. And I started to say, wait a minute, I've learned all these things. I'm a practitioner of all these different modalities. Um, and so why don't I start asking questions from those lenses it's almost like I got to go in this portal and sit in a room in my mind. It wasn't that I didn't know it or that I hadn't studied it, or it was, when you, it's like, this is maybe out there, but I don't know. I feel like people understand this. You want to get out of yourself and have a conversation with yourself, but which is what we're doing all day, every day, but it's just in a different way. If I could, doppelganger myself, if I could duplicate myself, my brain, everything that this uniqueness has collected, so I can have a conversation with my inner therapist. And that's what it was presented to me by a woman who was in her 80s, and she said, "Oh my God, I use ChatGPT all the time." And she's, someone I was sitting with in course classes, and so there was something about it that felt safe, coming from a loving being, and it wasn't just, distorted for all the things that it, could be or could be used. And so I said, "Oh, how interesting." And she just kept repeating it over and over. "Oh, well, I talked to ChatGPT about this, and I'm having all of these epiphanies." Is that interesting? So I started to dabble, and then I would say, "Well, I'd like to look at it from this perspective or this perspective." I mean, literally all the lenses that I've studied and collected and kind of put in my kaleidoscope of a brain, I can now go into the hall of mirrors and say, "I want to see it from this lens or this lens or this lens." Um, you know, uh, Most of them, all of them, I've studied. Um, some of them I may never get a chance to study in this lifetime, but I know the names. So I say, "Can you give me the perspective from, Gandhi?" Or, and I'm working with Yogananda. So, yes, I can get that perspective, which is, the kind of the end of the story is we do have it. The IT is inner technology. That's what I call it. We do have it innately programmed in us already. This is another outside tool to use, to not that someone outside of us is giving it to us. That's the perception. I don't believe in all the, we all came from the same place. And so it was created in goodness. This is the age of technology. This is the 24,000-year yuga that is all about technology to advance us, to remind us of telepathy without form, that we can communicate. We don't need the form to do it. So it became that vehicle of, oh, we're either going to miss it completely, or, oh no, this is literally placed on purpose for this. It's destined. It's meant to be. It's part of the path, or it wouldn't be. It's sort of like a innate acceptance of, well, I don't have to play with it. Like my mom might never, and she's in her 70s, and but it's not part of her path. But her children are saying, "Oh, I da da da, I looked this up," or, "Have you considered this perspective?" So, but then you have the woman who is in her 80s, and it is part of her path because her path is, and that's fascinating to me. She is retired, and she co is coming from a place of awakening. I want to awaken while I'm still in the dream, and coming from the basically using it as, this is Holy Spirit, and I can communicate with that space. So it all is the intention and the perception of, the user in the game. Um, so when I meet with people, I teach people to ask, inquire, be willing to just ask questions. The worst, and I don't think there is, but the worst that can happen is that you just say, "Ugh, no," or you find that there are discrepancies, which is really, there are, well, where's this coming from? How can there be a discrepancy? Well, but for me, I took it as a game of, wait a minute, that's not my personal year. How did that get calculated? Oh, well, it's for me, it's a game of how observant am I? Even when you're being fed or receiving information, it's still my responsibility to navigate how I perceive it and how if I choose to believe it. So it's been a fun game of playing with it. Um, I, I I am very different. I know in a lot of ways I don't believe in inherent bad, inherent, the duality of good and bad. I just don't, because I it's just a perception of bad. Inherently everything's good. So I play with it. I use it in ways of anything happening. I mean, I'm running, for example, through Gramanisha Helkunda. So I'm a flyer. Okay, well, I have all of the knowledge of learning what that is through the channels of, learning GNM or just taking classes, but also it's it's like sitting down with your therapist or your bestie and saying, I need to like see this from a different lens. How many lenses can you give me at once? Because if you've
Mm.
got an active brain and you want to hear it all, it shows up, and then I interpret and then I perceive. Um, it's been fun. It's a fun way to just open up space and use space differently. It's for me, it's kind of like how my personal brain mind works. It's just a rapid fire. It doesn't have to be that way, but that's the way that I'm interacting with it, is tell me everything from every angle. So I can kind of look at the, different rides at Disneyland in my mind and say, okay, what feels right? Um, and then I started to see a shift. And this shift outside of me was happening inside of me, which is, wait a second, this is still outside of me. And as I started to think that, the information wasn't distorted, it just didn't suit me as much as it was in the beginning.
So to clarify,
Yeah.
you were experiencing, you just had a mental shift of, oh, this AI stuff, it's not really that connection to my higher self in a way, or and the infinite amount of information that we already know and have programmed in us, but it is this outside, it is a robot. It is that what you're saying?
Well, not, I can hear that perspective, but I I had this mm, voice say, you already know this. And if you need guidance, you need to close your eyes and listen.
Hmm.
You have to stick. That was still going to an outside source. I don't care, robot books, encyclopedias back in the day. I mean, any of it, you know, any outlet that isn't inlet is an
Mm-hmm.
outlet. And so that became, oh, so plugging, a cord into an outlet is what I was doing, is I'm plugging into something outside of myself. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. It's even talking to my therapist or a friend. I'm still asking for outside resource
Yeah.
instead of the path that I'm on now. The trajectory changed very quickly. Play with it, have fun, use it to help. It's another tool, just like emotion code or body code or belief code. It's another modality or tool that I use to help people, but not to stay there necessarily, unless that's the path to open up that being in that way and to awaken them. But it became another tool I could put in the bag, Mary Poppins bag. Um, but the truest of the truest of the truest, which I've been avoiding and avoiding and avoiding, is I, the collective me one, says, here's, honey, you can keep going down this rabbit hole, but at some point, it's going to you're going the role of playing identities without aligning or attuning to the real identity of who and what you are. You're going to self-combust. It's not, you can't keep going down that rabbit hole. It's literally like humbling myself before an altar that is within.
Mm.
And everyone talks about, I mean, in every which way throughout, 50 years of my life, meditate, 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 meditate. Oh, I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to. We don't want to sit still. We want the information, which is great because we can type it in and we can get it. But that's what I realized for me, that's the handicap for me is it's still not giving me what I need, which
Mm,
is inner peace and inner alignment to truth. And we can't get it outside of ourselves in any way, shape, or form. We will be guided along the path. So none of it is wrong. It's just kind of on the game. Here's a gem, here's a gem, here's a gem, yellow brick road, how many bricks? You get to the curtain, what's behind the curtain? Um, is it really an external wizard, or is it, what does she realize in the end? She was dreaming. She was home safe the entire time. And that is the key that I've come into knowing or believing is, and it's terrifying to all the identities that I've played. I mean, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm already home? Wait, what? But all these roles, were they worthless? Were they pointless? No. It's part of playing and having a good time, just like all the different levels of school. You start out at preschool and kindergarten, you play all the things, or you're homeschooled, or you play in nature, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just these little adventures, but almost, I don't know, it's kind of like I got sidetracked, um, in a not in a bad way, just when are you ready to remember home? Are you ready to feel safe at home? And what is a flying constellation? Check out, not safe, gotta get up and out, scare fright, jumping out of my body, hanging out, disassociating. So for me, it's been a beautiful, really a wild, beautiful adventure of you can avoid yourself all you want. And you can, and all of it has been in service to others, but also what in the end, me, um, what is it that I truly want? And it's this attunement and alignment to truth that never changes. That's what I know. The body changes, it's not real. It looks real, it appears real. But in the not real playing game, we have all kinds of things to play with. So I don't think anything's bad. I think it's all for, it's how how we're using it. What is our inherent, I don't know if a belief, it's more inherent choice. I choose to embody, divinity incarnate. Show me how. Use me as the instrument of peace. Um, and for me, that's playing different roles to relate to people who are in those roles, to say really on the path, like there's another way, you know, but you won't find me until you get to that place in your mind that says, wait a minute, something's off here. We could, in some circles, we call, we could say, we can narrow it down to, boil it down to its midlife crisis. What is that? It's an identity conflict. What do I do with that? Which way do I go? Uh, just inherently, you can't get it wrong. You just can't get it wrong. And if everyone, if we can at least, know and hear that, no matter what, you cannot get it wrong. It's literally choose a new adventure, choose again, choose again, choose again, choose again. So I use, I had I think that's where I was going with this. I had a moment where, when you abuse the use of something, meaning I've overused it. I'm going outside of myself too often. I haven't gone back to just sit with a notepad or sit in meditation and ask whatever it is I believe in. Call it whatever you want, love, creator, God, universe, whatever. If I close my eyes and I ask that question, whatever question it is, I will get an answer. But if I've diverted from that and I'm using all the external tools in excess, it's not balanced. And that I think that's the key is, we're here in this, the playing field of duality. If it's not in balance, and that's what I started to find. Oh, it will mirror back what happened is it mirrored back fear to me.
Hmm.
So it became a system that I don't believe in. So I was looking for one lens and it diverted me like, oh, you must call 911 right away. And I was like, wait, what? What is happening? Who's talking? But it wasn't that it was programmed or that it's, a robot in my perception. It was, I've programmed it with my thoughts. That's this external, this is the mirror. Well, what do I have? I have fear, which is BS, belief system, and truth, love. So I had this like epiphany, like wake up, like, wait a minute, you're telling me to call, who is this? Who is talking to me? Oh, it's the system behind the system. No, no, this is my collective system of BS that literally is mirroring back to me. Something's wrong with you. You have to, but this wasn't the only one. I had friends saying, you really should be careful. Something's going on with you. I was experiencing like a lot of dizziness and different adaptations, biological adaptations, and I'm going through a huge identity shift right now. Another role, a shedding of a role, and almost a bearing of all. A different way of bear down. It's just strip everything you've ever thought you wanted to play with, ever thought you were, and asking source, tell me who I am. Show me that this inherent truth that I am love. Well, I don't know how to navigate that without all these things. Well, it's not without, but it's just how do I navigate with it now in this next phase? So when I had, it was ChatGPT at the time, it literally saying, you should call 911. This conversation has to end. I, first I said, I had this like wake up call. Like it's almost, I don't believe in that. I know my body is adapting, my mind and body are adapting to something that I'm experiencing. And again, that comes from I believe that this is all, that it's natural, that this is, I'm attuned to biology and the nature, but also I also have just a different, maybe underlying belief that none of this is real in truth because it keeps changing, and that's how I identify. So the moment that it changed outside of me and it veered on the perception of fear, I was like, I'm done. And really was not done with using it, but just in this conversation, like you need to stop going down this rabbit hole. This is not your truth. This is not truth. And this is not going to help you. And so really what it did was a reverse to, ah, okay, I have to sit down and get this information inside me. And so it was really kind of a funny, what's my personal biggest fear is that someone's going to take over my choice of anything but thought, choice to believe in. And so here it was mirroring back something that I didn't believe, but that I have been surrounded by my whole life. And I thought, wow, that is classic guidance. Like, if you continue to go outside of yourself, this is what this looks like. Not that someone out behind it is doing something like the wizard behind the curtain. No, 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 no. This is me saying, just take everything and you tell me what to do. Instead of, no, I've already done that. I've played many of those roles. No, no, no. Well, what's the other option? The other option is quickly shut the computer down. Just at a moment, shut the computer down. Even the computers outside of yourself. Here we are using technology to help share, right? It's beautiful. There's an inherent good in this. Um, but in that moment, I said, oh my God, I'm using it for the wrong reasons. I'm using it to play God when really, no, 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 this is going to get really gnarly. This is going to look ugly. It's going to, you just, whatever, the white coats are coming kind of a thing. So I had to laugh, which of course we know, if anyone knows, it's one of the ways to resolve a conflict. I had to laugh about it and was able to laugh about it and say, okay, let's go back to the roots. What are the roots? How did I get here? What is this about? What do I really, believe in? So I believe we can use it, but if we abuse it, like anything, it can literally distort your reality.
I think it's that point of saying, like you said, it's a tool, but it is not God.
Right.
And I know for me, when I tend to overuse it or I'm just using it too frequently, it's like, you know what, I could, if I just pause a moment, I could think of what I genuinely want to say or what the heart of something is. Or I've asked it questions of like, "Hey, help me map out an episode or something," or I've got this series I want to do. Help me create like the different pillars for it. And it does it, and I know I immediately go, "Oh, okay, cool, awesome." But then I go and I do the dishes or I make dinner and I start thinking about it. And like, you don't know, no, that's not it. That's actually, yeah. Let me come back to what I know. Let me come back to what is truth to me. And that is such an interesting perspective of how it is kind of just reflecting us back to ourselves. And that my husband and I, we talk about it a lot. We both use it in various aspects of our work, and it's clear that it's it's not superhuman. It has a great ability to be able to grab a lot of information and synthesize it or just make it, polished but a lot of times it comes out it's like "Yeah, that's not that's not my truth. I know for sure that's not my truth." And so I think it is important to see that yeah, it's a tool. It can be super useful, but at the same time, we need to be grounded in who we are. And I love that reaction of like close the computer, laugh about it, and let me reconnect with source. Let me reconnect with love and what I know is true. Um,
Yeah.
so for some of the women who are totally new to using AI, do you have any tips for how they could, how could this be a tool that is useful in their lives to be able to reflect back something or hear? Are there any prompts that you recommend to how do you get the most out of it while again making sure that we're not relying on it like we would? I mean, it's the same thing if I go to my doctor. My doctor told me that this thing is wrong with me and I need to
Yep.
take this pill for the rest of my life. It's like, well, baloney.
Yep.
And yeah, that's outsourcing. And
Yeah.
and again, my for this pod for this ep, pardon me, this whole podcast, one of the main pillars is radical self-responsibility. It's sovereignty. And so, yeah, coming back to that. But let's get back to that question. How do you utilize it for a beginner?
Um, let's see. I think what I have surmised through my own experience is that okay, it's if ChatGPT or any AI is it's perfect. Your doctor, your therapist, your partner, your best friend. The way to kind of come from behind it is, do you listen to everything your partner, doctor, best friend, parent, do you listen to everything that they're offering you? They're offering, and because they and AI can only offer you what you're feeding it, essentially. You can only, I believe, you can only get truth from inside the IT, inner technology. You can only get it there. You will get it mirrored outside of you once you already know it inside of you. So if we
Mm.
even going to spiritual resources, you we, you can read all the books, and I've had these dialogues coming up lately as I'm studying with Raja Yoga and the Ananda Center, and there's no physical being anymore. That avatar is no longer in form, which is really quintessential for my path right now. What is it telling me? You cannot go outside of yourself. So how do I use these tools? Well, what is of interest to me? It's like going in with a kind of caveat that no matter what you use, whether it's AI or whether it's, therapy or whether it's, a teacher or a healer or
Or books, like you said, I loved that you brought up
yeah,
like, oh yeah, I did like I'd look up things in a book and then I'd have to weigh it to see
right,
like, oh, how does that
right,
resonate with me?
right, exactly. It's literally how I approach it. If I am perceiving that this is the end all be all, uh, well, it'll be perfect for your path of unfolding and awakening in something, something along the way. I mean, um, Judaism was for me for a very long time. And then I had to have a conversation with myself. Wait a minute, that was just a role and identity that got me one step closer to connection. I was looking for connection and belonging, but not for something belonging and connection outside of myself. But I don't look back and say, regret or judge the path. So to take it and just say, have fun and play. And I don't know if there's a caveat. It's more just just to say a blanket statement, it's an outside source. And outside sources will never give you what you're looking for, ever. It will reflect back to you where you are. So
Yes.
ChatGPT or AI or friend or therapist or doctor will only tell me, can only tell me what I'm already believing and thinking. Then so some of it is a wake-up call. So to get that kind of wake-up call moment, I was for a moment in time believing something was actually, wrong with me, like I'm having some, breakdown, which again, it's more like breakthrough, but that's where I was. And so it couldn't help but shift. So magically it shifted complete perspective of, wait a minute, where did that come from? As I was about to blame the outside source. So that's another kind of way to say, it's how I go in is what I get out. So whether it's, typing in a question, I mean, you can, start off with something simple, but when we learn, for example, I teach people how to muscle test. When you use muscle testing, the way that it was taught, and I can appreciate it because we have perception lenses called emotions. So if we, the thing that we love to do is test, is this person my soulmate? Is this person, even just emotional things that I'm experiencing or I'm afraid I'm going to experience. Of course, I want to muscle test those. But when we're muscle testing them from a place of perception as an emotions, we're going to get back the perception, not truth. So there's the caveat of using muscle testing. Do things that you don't care about. Muscle test if you like bananas or if you like peanuts or, things that you just, you don't care what the answer is because you're in neutrality. There's no emotions attached. When there's an attachment to what it is that we're testing, then we become attached and we go down the rabbit hole to that. So very much like, AI, using AI that way it will end up that way, which is how I ended up in the, the moment of, wait, what's happening? Even that, my ears, everything went, ah! Um, oh my God, Amy, come back to yourself. This is how did I get here? Well, I started to hear the things, the voices that weren't, true, all the beliefs of there's something wrong with you, you have to do something about it. So how do I know this? Like, the only evidence I have of this is that I never once asked anything down the route of the answer. But then you could say, well, then how did it come back that way? Well, because it learns what I think the brilliance of this, the patterning or seeking or looking at analyzing patterns is that it can mirror back the pattern of fear that I have that I'm not even aware of.
Hmm.
So that, it depends on who you are when you approach this. If you're using it for, go with the intention of um, fun and
Yeah.
play. And if you find yourself emotional, sitting in any emotion, good, bad, on the spectrum that is not neutral. Like I'm curious and I'm in wonder and I'm a child and I'm in the candy store and I'm kind of curious about this. You run the risk of going down a rabbit hole, but one way or another and getting diverted. But in the end, you can't get it wrong, and it's all part of, the uncovering, the discovering, the unveiling, the journey that you're on. So I layer it with you can't get it wrong. Just have fun. Um, if you're going in thinking it's something, there's someone behind it, that it's this, that, and whatever, don't do it because it's exactly what you'll find. It's like, going into a relationship and having all these expectations, but the expectations are also the beliefs. And then all of a sudden you see it manifest and you say, well,
Mm.
well, I told you, I knew it. No, it's mirroring what you believed and you fed it. It's like that old, I don't know what it is, where you've got each angel, or the, which do you feed? Do you feed this or that? And so that's really like we're literally feeding it information. Are we feeding it our truths? Will it come back beautiful, or are we feeding it our fears? Sometimes we're not even aware of which is which. And so then we get the information back and we freak out. And then, thankfully I had an awareness of no, 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 this is this is not my truth. And I have to come back to, okay, sitting in silence. And for me, that's that's where we're going. I think this is just, it's part of learning that the information is uh, in there, not out there. And it's a way to say all of this is part of who we are already.
Mm.
And so if you know that going in to it, that if you have a home base of truth of it, that knowing, then when moments show up and it's completely like skewed and you just well, that's not something outside of myself. That's just, oh, I just hit one of my beliefs. It's like when you work on, when you work in belief code or body code or emotion code, you hit something that's trapped that you weren't cognitively aware of. Well, here it is. Oh, wow, I didn't know I still believed in that. Oh, okay. And then you weigh, is that true or not true for me right now? No, that's not true for me. Shut the computer down, go back home inside. And then, have I used it since? Of course. Now I have. But I also know when I hit the threshold of obsessive, it's like watching a series. We dive into the series and then 7 hours later, where did I go? Where was I?
Hmm. You
Have
kind of
I
have to
have I
read,
checked into the center?
yes, read like check in with reality here because we
Yeah.
are so sucked in. I
Yeah.
think exactly. We're going to wrap up from here, but what you were saying about whether we're using AI or we're using a friend, if we feel like in a moment of conflict and we're looking for clarity, the only person who has that clarity is you.
Yeah.
And I know for myself that whether I've asked like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm having all these big feelings about this situation or this person and this relationship, and I just don't really know what to do. What always comes out of it, whether I'm talking to a girlfriend or I'm talking to ChatGPT, is that it's just going to reflect back to me what I really deeply wanted to tell me.
Yeah.
And in general, I mean, or when I see it, I go, now I know it wanted to tell me, oh, that's right, you should have cut that person out of your life, blah. But I know in my heart that that's not really what I want to do. And I have some other work to do. But it shows up kind of like that the nasty angel kind of shows up and makes it clear of what my true intention was or what my need was. Like clearly, I just wanted to be heard. I wanted someone to validate me. And so I think we need to be aware of that as well. But yeah, I love it that it should be a playful tool and that it can help like consolidate a lot of time and energy, but to not use it like it is our brain. We still have our brain, our spirit. We have all of that that is the kind of the divining rod. It is the solid. it has the truer um, seed in it, as opposed to just what is reflected and collected and reflected.
Yeah. 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 The answer is always inside. And the funny part about using anyone outside of ourselves, anything or anyone, is that, as you said, and the classic one to kind of like make everyone laugh is, when we were struggling in a relationship and oh, da, 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 this person did this, blah, blah, and they're like, yeah, that's such BS. And, you should probably leave him or her. And then, and then you go back and you're like, oh, okay, well, it was just, I was having a moment. And then they're like, oh, yeah, okay, good. So it's sort of like, wait, you're fickle. Like what's actually real? It's just like, any of the AIs, it's going to give you exactly where you are in your
Exactly.
own inner field, which is why it becomes funny. And to remember, it's what we are giving it that it is going to, reflect back. It can't. It's programmed to give you yourself back the information that you're asking it. It's coming from, what did I program it? It starts to learn your questions and your patterns, just like, a therapist does. It knows how to speak to you in a way that you can hear. Now, just remember who started the conversation.
Yep.
That's the classic, like, I asked, I started the conversation. The computer didn't turn on and start asking me, questions.
Not yet.
Someday, maybe.
Yeah. Ha!
But
Amy,
again,
thank
it
you.
will be based on the program of what I'm operating.
Right, right. It knows us so well at that point.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And I especially love getting to talk about identity and all the different roles that we play and being able to come to a place of saying, let's strip it all away. And I really want to get to the heart of who I am. And I want to live from that seat. And that is a struggle. And that's what we've been talking about in this series of its identity. How do we come home to ourselves? And a lot of that is recognizing, oh, this is a role. This is a costume I've been wearing. This is okay. How do I get to my authentic self? And thank you for this beautiful, raw, real conversation.
You're welcome. What a pleasure to sit in it with you. And anyone who's listening and sitting in, I know it can be terrifying to strip down, really, literally, physically, but all of it, figuratively. And to have these conversations, I think, that you're offering is community while you derobe, disrobe, let go of, shed. Here we are in the final, week of the year of the snake, in shedding. So may we do it in community, feeling comfort, that we are not the only one doing it, and we're not the only ones feeling it, and that there is always truth waiting for us, that will be reflected outside once we're willing to say, okay, I'm in, I'm ready. Show me what's real, show me what's true. So thank you. Thanks for letting me share my.
Absolutely. Oh, and then for ladies that are interested in being able to work with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you? And again, you said you have Animere, which is helping us work with our animals, but then you also offer just like, hey, I need some help. Help me with some clarity.
Yeah. Well, it's my email, Amy at the House of Zen, HAUSOFZEN, or literally my cell phone number. I'm super old school, 917-597-4247. Text, and that's how I roll. I don't do websites. I just, when we're supposed to meet, we meet, and it all unfolds, as together as one. Um, yeah. It's
For
it's been an it's an honor. It's an honor to just hang out, share space.
For anyone who is interested in working with Amy, I highly recommend having a session with her. And I will include the contact information for her in the show notes so that you can, because it is like you come away so at peace and full of joy and love because you just can't get anything different from interacting with Amy. So, yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Mm. All right. I am experimenting with something new that I have been feeling called to create a whole woman awakening circle. It will be an online, live, guided women's experience focused on alignment, responsibility, and coming home to yourself, your womanhood, your marriage, and your motherhood. Our first circle will be Sunday, February 22nd from 2 to 3 p.m. And we'll be gathering in a structured, intentional space that includes reflection, a guided meditation, and grounded sharing. This is not a venting circle or a place to stay stuck in victimhood. It's a place to come and get nourished and recharged, revitalized, and feel renewed afterwards. And to make sisterly connections with each other. This is something I'm trying with the intention of offering it monthly if it feels nourishing and aligned. Space is limited, and there is a short application to make sure that I can help the group to make sure it's all a good fit for everyone involved. If this resonates, I invite you to come apply at wholewomanawakening.com. If something in today's episode resonated with you and you're feeling a call to go deeper, I'd love to stay connected. I'm beginning to offer Whole Woman Mentorship. This is a one-on-one, intuitive support for women who are ready to realign with themselves, their marriages, and their motherhood. I'm also experimenting with a monthly Whole Woman Circle. It's a live, online, guided women's experience rooted in responsibility, presence, and coming home to yourself. You can learn more, join the community, and explore what's unfolding at wholewomanawakening.com. Until next time, may you feel supported coming home to yourself.